Chelsea played Servette and Wolves during this week, and we are starting with the Servette game today. Andrew, your thoughts on the Servette game? 2-0, decent win, decent performance, yay or nay?
It was a hard watch, to be honest, for a lot of the game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We were lacking a fair amount of quality, and I think
I think we were lacking. Full stop. Thumbs it up. I
it's
mean,
just we're so reliant, I think, on Cole Palmer coming up with something. Like so reliant on him coming up with something. Um,
that's why I've put him in my fancy league team. He's the only person that's going to do anything.
have you? I think I've put him in now. I was going to put Madueke in as well, but I'm just scared about rotations. Like obviously for the next game, we'll talk about that later. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I think look, he did a lot more rotation than I thought he would, and I think it showed. I think that team probably doesn't quite understand the system. They are slightly worse in general as players. We like Servette. In theory, Servette shouldn't have had as much of the game as they had, and that was probably my problem with it. I think that was the game where you kind of go, "This is how we just completely control possession and dominate this game." And I think it showed also that this system kind of struggles against a lot of players behind the ball.
Yeah.
Which is what we'll play constantly. And we weren't particularly quick at getting the ball forward in that game. We weren't.
I don't think we
particularly
actually got
direct.
out of gear two.
No.
And that's a big worry for me, but please continue. Absolutely.
And it was kind of the players that coming on that sort of made the difference, I think. But yeah, it was difficult to watch. There was booze at half time again. And it kind of felt like almost a step backwards from even Man City when we lost the game, just because
the
we were
level of
playing against
performance was
someone that
different.
wasn't good.
Yeah.
And you was kind of expecting, like, right, this is the game where you see this system come into fruition a little bit against someone that probably isn't quite as good. I think Servette defended okay. And they had a couple of decent players that did cause us problems. So I was glad to come away with 2-0. Did we deserve a 2-0 win? Probably not. I think we probably edged the game, but I think the quality off the bench helped us out a lot.
Yeah, I have to agree. From what I saw, just because the my internet connection was horrific that day. Um, I was quite surprised by the team he put out. We had a discussion about that before the game. Obviously, because of what we had discussed off air. Excuse me. I mean, I don't think there were really any standout players until we did the subs. I agree with that. I was worried about Palmer because obviously he had a hamstring issue, which I was really worried about the Wolves game because like shit, if he's injured, like you said, we rely on him a lot. And then what I'm worried about Mudryk. I mean, from that game, but then also the Wolves game, and even the comments after the Servette game by Maresca weren't good, and I don't think that they were wrong or harsh or out of order in any sense or the shape or form. I think they were quite blunt and true. So I think I'm worried about him now and what he's going to
Yeah,
do. Having said that, Neto has
looked
made
fine, didn't
well, I thought he did well against City when he came on. He didn't get much of the ball. We saw a lot more of him in the Wolves game, which we'll obviously get onto in a minute. But yeah, I think overall disappointing in the Servette game. Yes, we got 2-0. We got what we needed, which is always good. And you know what they say, not saying that we are a good team, but good teams know how to win in difficult times and difficult games.
he?
So you can't knock the fact that we came away with the 2-0. I mean, you have given me a point here. And yeah, I mean, Mark and his finishing.
Yeah, I think that's the question mark I had sort of over him, where you were slagging off Jackson and going, I really want to see what Mark Gue can do. And I think in pre-season, he didn't really show that he was a finisher. He's high energy, he causes the other team problems and doesn't let them build up from the back if they want to. And he showed that against Servette as well. But he's had three chances there in the space of 5 seconds, all of which should have gone in,
It
and
was
he
poor.
missed all three. Um,
It was poor that moment. It was
and
poor.
I think I was more worried about how much it got to him as well afterwards. You could see it on him, like he was not mentally in a great place after that on
I,
the pitch.
yeah,
And
I mean, I don't know
I
too many 18-year-olds that would be, but you're playing for a big team now.
you're saying Barcelona's not a big team.
No, I'm not saying that. I think Barcelona are a big team. Unfortunately, they are also struggling. My Spanish team is also struggling at the moment with club issues. But in terms of, I don't actually know how many appearances he's actually made for Barcelona. To be fair, I hadn't heard of him until we went to sign him, basically. Um, but yeah, he's got some work to do. That's obvious, and I'm kind of happy we saw it against Servette and not against another team, and my questions were answered, I guess. So
Yeah, look, I still think he's actually he's a good option to keep around in terms of he's a handful, and if we're trying to hold on to a lead at the end of the game, having someone up there that's just causing them problems, not letting them build up and chasing after everything.
no, I agree. I do.
Someone plays not bad. I think he's still a useful player in the squad, but yeah, I think that's something if he's going to be our starting striker at any point, he's going to need to work on that big time.
Well, just quickly off topic, but as we're speaking about strikers, apparently I've heard that we are actually now going in for Ivan Toney,
Okay.
which I love. I
Yeah,
love this. I really do, for lots of reasons. If anything, I'm more annoyed that it's just taken this long for something to kind of happen or for people to kind of properly look at him. If I'm brutally honest, I do think he's a solid option. And
I think it's just the amount of money that Brentford want from him. He's 28, 29, isn't he? So like,
no, I
I
do
can
understand
understand the
that.
hesitation if Osimhen's around. They clearly wanted Osimhen, and it's been the whole Lukaku deal. Can we get Osimhen as part of it? And that's dragged on forever. So
No, I completely understand it from that point of view. But in terms of having a proper out and out striker, because let's face it, Nkuku's not an out and out striker, and that's no disrespect to him. He can definitely do a job. He's definitely the best one we've got at the moment for movement. Is Yao Felix really a striker? He's a centre forward. Can we rely on him and being an out and out striker? I'm not so sure. But he can definitely do a job, and I don't think he's. I'm not saying he's not a bad player, but having a bloke up top other than Nkuku, it gives us another option and a solid option, and it gives us Premier League experience and I think leadership, and that's something that we've already spoken about in the past in a previous episode. So from that point of view, I do think it's beneficial.
leadership.
He'll be no because he'll be one of the most senior players in the team, and
Yeah, but
his gold record speaks for itself in the Premier League. Played for Brentford.
yeah, but he hasn't played in that many big games, right? Other than sort of playoff finals, championship stuff. He won't have played in too many big games to
He's
win.
not played any massive cup games or anything like that. I'm not saying he has, but he does bring something.
Yeah, he's not one that I would like to be in a leadership role. Let's put it that way. The bloke's been done for gambling. He's not been particularly great to Brentford, and basically told them he wants to leave, and they've been nothing but good to him. And then he's like, "Our final stay." Then he's out for a ban, and then I'm going to leave again. And the whole. So look, I think he's a good striker and he's a great option. Giving him he's a leader and all those other bits. No, he's a great penalty taker. He's good at linking up play and he's a decent finisher. And anything outside of that, I'm not having.
I'm not saying we make him captain or anything, but I am hoping that he brings a bit of experience. He can bring some sort of leadership along the top line. Maybe help out Mark, just because I can't say his last name. We'll go with Mark.
You
Yeah, that one. But yeah, if we get that over the line, I'm not going to be unhappy with that. And actually, for the money that they want, for how long we could potentially have him for, I don't think it's a bad.
How much is it?
I don't actually know that. I keep
Like,
hearing the figures changing because it's up to 60 mil.
fucking hell. To be honest, I'm getting to the point where I'm just cut. I'm just like, look, I think Jackson could be a very good player if he's improved a lot over the last year and a bit that we've had him. Because when he first came, struggled holding up. He basically felt like what Nicholas Nelk was really good at, where it's like if you give him space in behind, he'll finish. But that's all he had to his game. I'm not saying Nicholas Nelka like that's all he had to his game. I'm saying that's what Nicholas Nelka was really good at, and
Let's
that's what
let's
he was
not
like
diss
known for.
let's not diss Sulk that much, okay? Like he's brilliant. He's
But Nicholas Jackson has shown to be a very good dribbler. He holds the ball up relatively well. Yes, there's some disciplinary issues there, but seems to be getting better
okay. We'll move on to that when we speak about Wolves. Um,
somewhat. And I just think he, if he's given game time, I think he will improve, and he could be a like up there with. I struggle to say world class because I just don't think there's the strikers in the
Up
world
there with,
that
I can't
great.
wait for this. Up there with,
But like, I don't see him being worse than like an Osimhen at the minute that we're trying to sign for 100 mil. He's not going to be a Haaland or an Mbappe or a like generational player, but that group below, I could of where it is at the minute, I could see him being at that level. Um, so, and this is part of my problem with our strategy at the minute, where we're buying all the best young talent. And we're going, like, there's only 11 players that can be on the pitch at the same time, and we've got 22 that we're trying to develop. And you go, just doesn't really work. And now we're buying the old players that we need to probably push us up in for the experience and like the difficult moments. And you go, well, great, but the balance of the squad's already screwed, and now you're now bringing in players that are, to take young players' positions that already play. If it was the other way around, it wouldn't be that much of an issue where you go, okay, Jackson's going to sort of learn his trade a little bit. But he's already got the taste of playing every week, and then to go, no, you're only going to come on as a sub and whatever. You're just going to get a load of players that are upset, not
oh,
the way
I agree with
managers
that.
should do.
I agree with that. But we always, but at the end of the day, our transfer policy and our philosophy has been off since day one, I think. Um, and if we are to get a transfer ban for this stuff that we did under Abramovich, then I think that that's why they're doing what they're doing now. But moving back to Servette, what did you think of the defense and then the midfield? Not great,
And
or
I didn't particularly enjoy the back four. I think they worry me. I think
who was the back four again? It was Reece James.
no, it wasn't Reece
That
James.
wasn't Reece James.
He was injured.
Of course, I keep forgetting that.
It was four
Gusto,
centre backs actually. They had I think Dizazi right back, under Tossin, I want to call him because
yeah,
that's their name
Hobson,
is.
yeah, yeah,
Even
yeah.
when he says it on the thing, I'm still not sure what it is.
No, I know. It's tough.
Um, then we had
Oh, yeah,
Badashil and Vega, I think, started.
yeah. It's a
Well,
bit.
Vega did okay in that midfield role, and then we sort of stuck to the Dizazi, Tossin, and Badashil as a sort of back three when we had the ball. I thought it was fine, but there is a drop off in quality there. I think the biggest one is Badashil just isn't confident. He's kind of lost it. He's had fits of play where he's looked confident, looked fine, and I think he's capable of playing the position. But he just goes through these patches where, or like I think he went through a really bad patch and he hasn't really looked like the same player. He's never really got that confidence
No, he
back.
hasn't. He hasn't. You're right. You are right.
Dizazi's obviously not a right back, and their left winger was probably their best player by a country mile. So he had a bit of a tough evening. Midfield wise, I'm struggling to remember who. So it was Caicedo, fine. Wasn't his best performance, but I just think it was like the whole thing was a bit disjointed because it's just with throw. Like I think Dewsbury Hall played a deeper role, and then in
I'm gonna say
Kunku
I think it was
midfield.
Caicedo, Dewsbury Hall.
and Nkunku were like the midfielders. And you kind
Yeah,
of go, well,
because
you
Enzo
are
came on
kind of
later.
leaving Caicedo there on his own, really, in
Yeah,
that situation, which I think he did okay with. I just think we didn't really get caught on the counter like that much and that badly, which kind of is what Caicedo has to root out. They just had more of the ball than I thought they should have for a team of players that I don't actually didn't know any of them, which is
no,
rare.
agreed.
Um,
Just quickly, actually, before I forget, I thought the keeper did well. There were some bits at the end where Servette did pile on the pressure, and I thought he did well. I thought he might actually get the nod for Wolves, to be
he
honest.
made a couple of decent saves. And like he didn't put a foot wrong, so I think even not mentioning him is probably a plus. And then yeah, the front three looks disjointed. Mudrik's just not there yet in this system. Madueke was a big upgrade when he came on. Was it who started on the right? I can't remember now. Which isn't particularly glowing.
No, I can't remember either.
And Mark Guiu up front. So yeah, I mean it might have been Neto, but I thought Neto came on later. Don't know.
No.
Worrying that. Um,
What big squad, mate. Hard to choose from.
that's really pissed me off actually. But anyway, whoever it was obviously didn't play that well. But I think everyone was kind of fine. We had enough chances to score more goals, didn't. But it was a pretty bang average performance from no one really sort of set it light and you go,
Yeah,
right,
it
that player
was.
deserves to play.
Yeah, it was Neto. The team was Jorgensen in goal, Vega, Badiashile, Tosin, and Zazie, Dewsbury Hall, Caicedo, and then you had Pedro Neto and Cuckoo, Mark, and Mudryk. And Neto played on the wing, and Cuckoo was in the middle.
Yeah, I think Pedro Neto looks better on the left.
Oh, much better. No, no,
I think purely he works better with his left foot, and I think Noni's better as the one cutting in. I just don't. I think he can play that position, but I think he's better off as a better wide man and getting some decent balls in the box. But yeah, I just think Nkunku in that centre attacking midfield role, I think he just lacks creativity. He can play 1-2s and things quite well, but he doesn't have he's not playing the perfect pass, which I think Cole Palmer makes simple passes look incredibly simple. They were talking in the commentary for the moving off the Wolves game, but they're talking in the commentary that basically he was making with his pass, he was making the decision of what Madueke had to do, of whether he was taking a touch or whether he was shooting it first time or what he was doing, because the pass was
so accurate,
so
so
accurate, so
weighted.
perfect,
Yeah,
and like it was the weight of the pass was right and where he put it was perfect. He didn't have to break his stride, and I just don't think Nkunku's that level of passer. Like he'll get the ball there, but it might be out of stride and it won't be the perfect thing. So I do think he's probably better up front, but kind of looks lost unless the midfielder can go like get close to him. And that the problem is that's not really Cole Palmer's game. I think so. Whoever plays behind him, it'll probably have to be João Felix, and you almost start with two up front. But going back to what you were saying earlier, we've got a bunch of strikers that probably want to play with another player up front with them.
it's a good shout.
I think all of them would be better with a player up front with them. And we don't really do that. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and who ends up being sort of the player on top. And if we get Tony, because I think Tony also likes Mbuemo running
Yeah,
around
as
him.
in Buemo or Wisa. Like
Yeah, one of
Wisa,
the two of them
I
is
say.
playing, and I think they help him out. So I think he could be similar, and we won't know until he sort of signs and starts playing whether he's can do it sort of one man band on his own, or he does actually really need a player near him, because that is something that we're not great at, is getting someone in and around the striker.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, I think judging from the second half of the Wolves game, I think if we had him up front, there's no issue. I don't know what it would be like against low block teams because if I'm right, Brentford are more counter-attacking a lot of times.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, that's when they excel, and when
yeah,
you
yeah,
see a
yeah,
lot of their goals, it's
100%.
counter attack
Yeah,
stuff.